What's up, everybody? It's about that time for another edition of the Crew Radio Show. I'm Kevin Swan, co-host of the show, and the crew are professional people who are also friends that come together to talk about the things you want us to talk about. We talk about it all, and we don't hold back. So come on and join us for another edition of the Crew Radio Show.
Welcome to the crew. I'm not your boy. I'm the other boy. Y'all, we caught y'all off guard. I'm Jay Cub. We got Sia here. We got Ton here. And you know why we here. You know why we came. You know the assignment. So I'm going to jump out the way and let Marcia and Ton dive right into it. We're talking about everything that happened with the race.
Well, first of all, let me just say, I got on my T-shirt today.
Yes, you do.
I will shank you. That is the T-shirt I am wearing today because we are fired up about the results that took place on the presidential election on Tuesday. Yeah. And the thing about it, y'all, is there are so many layers as to why the election turned out the way it did. Some people were extremely shocked. Some people were not that surprised. Matter of fact, where were you guys on all of this?
So I had some briefings that I'm probably privy to that a lot of people aren't.
Okay.
That I've been worried for the last couple of weeks. Now the momentum was there. The energy was there.
Yeah.
The coverage was there.
Right.
But when you remember that there's just a few ways you get to 270 and we weren't lining up what we needed to get to the 270, I have been worried for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
What about you, Jay?
I knew it wasn't going to happen. I was optimistic because, I knew it was the best thing for our country, even for the short term in transition. I know they said that Biden was a transitional president. I felt like even Vice President Harris could have assisted in that transition. But just like everything, she was put behind the the 8 ball in the game. And I wanted her, but I knew it wasn't going to happen for her.
Yeah.
Where were you?
Yeah, I knew like the last 2-3 weeks. I just in prayer, God was just dropping things to me, and I think it was like preparing me. And here's the thing: I was hoping I was hearing wrong and hoping that I was off, but after a while, I had to really just come to terms with it is going to be what it's going to be. Yeah. And so I kind of accepted it. And so when the first results started coming in, I said, okay, Lord, I get it. And I shared it with a couple of people before the election. I did share it. But again, I was afraid to really speak it because I just did not want to accept that America could literally choose a person who was just outrageously, blatantly narcissistic and misogynist and racist and elitist and just cared about no one other than himself. And the biggest elephant that's in this room, y'all, is that there were people, many of them look like us, that voted against their own interests because of certain bigotry. And we got to reveal that and expose that today.
Listen, I'm going to tell you, when we were doing that show right after Cat Williams had gone on Club Shay Shay, and they were talking about 2024 is the year of exposure.
Yes, he did.
I don't know that I knew it was going to be like this.
I didn't. I ain't gonna lie. I didn't.
But this is in line with exposure.
Oh, it is.
Clarity.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's no confusion anymore. You can't come away from Tuesday night and be confused about anything right now. You might be hurt.
You
might be dejected. And sorry, we're not in that emotional space. So we're gonna talk about some stuff.
We're gonna talk about it.
Like the tears can be, but we're gonna talk about some stuff. But you can't be confused.
No. And the reality of it is when you talk about exposures, it's particularly what Kat talked about exposures, America was exposed.
Yes.
Because there were a lot of elephants in the room.
Yep.
There were a lot of hidden things that were secretive for years and even centuries. But there were open exposure for America. This election has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It has everything to do with America. The indictment It's against America.
Yes.
Because we, with our eyes wide open, we chose him.
And you know what's interesting, because you know, when I was trying to get clarity about what I was thinking, I definitely went to either the blogs, the websites, or the social media of a couple of people that I just know are like really strong. Like Nicole Hannah-Jones from the 1619 Project, and she's, I think, dean of one of the departments at Howard University. When she was talking about it from the historical perspective, and like whether there is going to be a time and a place for us to get into messaging and polling and like that the policy mechanisms and things, right? But when you just look at the history of who and what America is from its inception, I thought her thoughts were really clear. And then Sherilyn Ifill, who,
like her.
she was the former president of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and I read her blog. I even printed it, and I have some notes here. But I mean, just she runs down, why are we here at this moment? And if you have anybody that's giving you a political take from this election that does not mention not just racism, but anti-blackness, right? And not just misogyny, but anti-woman hatred.
Yes.
If their analysis does not cover that, it's problematic. And then
let me ask you this. Do they talk about intra-hatred?
So I will be clear. We did a show, and if you haven't seen it, go back to it, where we talked about that.
Okay.
But when we look at this thing globally, you have Black women who were the highest performing voting bloc for Vice President Harris.
Correct.
Second to that was Black men. So tonight, I don't think is the night that we nitpick on that voting bloc.
Okay.
Because compared to the others, we showed up.
Okay.
Now, we got some brothers and some sisters that we need to have conversations with.
They're not invited to the cookout.
You said they're not invited to the cookout.
It's on hold. It's on hold until we get the results back.
What about a drive-by? Can we do a drive-by for the plate?
No, they can't get a plate. No Dixie cups, none of that.
But they may not come to the cookout, but they are not to blame for this. Okay. I won't say in that way, because they showed up and they voted. Okay. So there's a whole other sect that we can talk about that didn't show up and why they didn't show up and all that. But I think a lot of the anti-blackness and the misogyny had to be investigated from those whose voting blocks did not show up for Kamala, and that's been kind of what their assessments have been, and just thinking through this thing and thinking through our literal democracy, and not the idea of democracy that happened to begin with,
right?
But the actual democracy, when it wasn't a full democracy until Black folks got the right to vote. That was in 1965.
Right.
So
1965 Voting Rights Act, for those who don't know.
It's not at all.
Still a baby.
It is.
Still a baby.
Yeah.
When you think about other countries and things.
When you think about inclusivity.
Oh my gosh. We just got the right.
But then, you talk about 1965 Voting Rights Act, but then in the late 80s, early 90s, that act was chopped up to pieces.
And then the final death blow in 2013 with the Shelby v. Holder case that we've discussed as well. Yeah. So even within the 60 or so years that it's been around, it has not been in full force. Yeah. So when you look at that our ability to even enter into this conversation as voters is so new. It's hard for me to sit here and do any analysis about the two Black voting blocks.
Okay. I hear you. And you and I, we have these conversations offline. And I always first look within. And the reason I always first look within is because I know I can't control what's going on outside of me.
Right.
But I can absolutely address issues that I'm responsible for.
Absolutely.
And so I always look there first. And the numbers do show some discrepancies between Biden and Kamala Harris.
Oh, absolutely.
And we all have had conversations with people who say, I ain't going, or I'm not showing
Absolutely.
up, or,
My vote don't count.
My
Right.
vote don't count. Or some people say she ain't black. And I'm like, well, that has to be anything to do with it? Are you voting for her? Because if she was, let's say, 100% African American, would you vote for her just for that reason? I mean, I hope you would vote for her because she represents your values and your interests.
So we only have an hour.
Okay.
So we can spend some time here.
Okay.
Because we do have some stats. But with the caveat that we are not blaming black people for this.
No.
But some are. So I just want to be very clear.
Well, talk about that because
I'm about to say, because I blame black people.
You say you blame black people?
I blame black people.
Why?
Well, okay, so I look at I do. I look at it from the standpoint of this. When black men need something, who do we turn to?
Black women.
We turn to black women.
Yes, Lord.
Black women show up. I think about in my relationship with my wife. I don't care what I need. I don't care if she is dog sick. She don't give me what I need.
Yes, Lord.
When I'm dog sick, now I'm different. I'm a machine. But the average man don't show up for a sister. So I think about Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris. Her name was Kamala, and all that. It infuriates me.
They do that on purpose.
They do.
But when not she needed us, when democracy needed us to show up, we didn't.
But we did. That's what I want. That's what I want to be clear.
Talk about it.
We did
what is found on that?
Because in our assessments, right, when we're looking at trends, so that we're gonna get Jason to put up the graph so y'all can see it. But the breakdown of the 7 battlegrounds, right? Because when you're looking at national politics, there's a little bit. It's
skewed.
It's skewed. We can't sit here and just look at Virginia when that Virginia was already decided that it was going to be blue, and that's why you didn't see a whole bunch. Now we had a great team here, but when you're thinking about people who are running for president, they have to run in the 7 battleground states.
Let's give it: Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania. Who am I missing?
They had North Carolina in there.
North Carolina. They put that. North Carolina's new.
And this is why I want us to remember.
North Carolina's new.
This is why I want us to remember that, yes, we may have different percentages of black women and black men. And yes, we are not a monolith. And the more and more we get into the suburbs and the more we make it, the more and more diverse our politics become.
Right.
However, without black people, Georgia wouldn't have even been in play. Without black people, North Carolina would not have been in play. When you're looking at any of these...
Arizona would not have been in play.
Hello.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at what the Democratic Party was banking on in these 7 states, you're looking at big blue black areas. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
You are.
And so yes, things were different for her. Right. Yes, there's misogyny. Yes, there are things and issues, but I don't want to spend so much time on the 6% of black men that shifted when we're not looking at the 20, 50, and 60% of what some of these other groups did.
Well, because this is going to be a two-part show. Because it's just a lot to talk about. So what we're going to do is give you probably the overall umbrella.
Overview.
And then the overview. And then we will probably come back and just go for it.
And this is the thing, too, because one thing that we're not going to be is we're not going to be just talking heads.
No.
We're going to give you straight facts. And some of these other podcasts are making up takes. They haven't analyzed the data. They haven't read the actual reports. They just go on our vibes and feelings, and we value you too much for us to do that. And so part 2 will be after some of the after-action reports have come out, too.
Correct. So why don't you tell us about some of the numbers that you've already pulled?
Okay, so I am interested in Virginia. You can look this up for other states, but I'm gonna give y'all some Virginia numbers, okay? So this is in the article, and also remember that by the time you hear this, not every single Virginia ballot has been counted because they had until earlier today to cure their ballot, get their ballots in and all that. So not every ballot has been counted, but these are trends. So in Virginia, more Democratic-leaning localities saw voter turnout below 70% this year than the Republican-leaning ones. So we stayed home.
We stayed home.
We stayed home.
Wow.
And then not a single Democratic-leaning locality saw a voter turnout of 80% or higher.
Wow.
But several of the Republican-leaning ones did. And this is from WRIC, their report that came out as we're, looking through the ballots. Now, here's where we break that down, where we can talk about, and I think not to blame, because I think this is the disconnect. When Black people show up to vote and they vote for Trump, that's one conversation.
Right.
When Black people make the decision to not show up, that's a different conversation.
Correct.
Okay. So the people with the lowest turnout in Virginia this election cycle were Petersburg, Emporia, and Hopewell.
That's Black people, y'all.
All day.
So that's 51,
And it's not
53,
just Black
and 54.
people,
Low income.
but it's Black people in the lower
Right.
working class demographics.
And they historically favor Democrats. So now remember, Virginia went for Harris. So we are not blaming these people
Right.
because she won.
She
right?
won. She won.
Kane won. The Democrats that were supposed to hold on to their seats,
They
held on, right? So this isn't blame. This is where we can investigate as opposed to blame. Investigate.
I like to blame.
So, well, okay.
We're going to investigate.
We're going to investigate.
We're going to investigate.
We're going to let you. But so these are the people that said not him, but also not her.
Right.
And that's where I think we can get into,
Wow.
So they know what he stood for.
Right.
But they may not have known what she stood for.
Or didn't like it.
Didn't like it. And
So-
that's where I think
But see, I have an issue with that because I heard some. You look at the blogs, the social media sites that they always said they didn't know who she was. My issue is you don't know who. Let's just go with that.
Okay.
You don't know who she is or who she was, but you vote for a man that calls African descent countries SO countries.
But that's the other people. These are the people that know about him, and they were never going to vote for him, but didn't
Vote for her either.
vote for her either, and didn't pick third
So
party
let's
either.
talk about that point you made,
Yes.
Jay, which is they're saying that they didn't know
Right.
who she was.
How?
Yeah, please. Okay, you beat me to that. It's like, how do you not
But there's an answer.
But
There's an answer.
For me, I felt like she had to dig herself out of a hole from under Biden's shadow.
Yeah.
So everything she said, like you think about what the argument they said, like she had 4 years to prove what she could do, but like the vice president can't really enact policies and issues
But how
and
do
do
you
stuff
know
like
that?
that. I mean, I read books.
Okay.
No, I'm educated, so I may understand that part of it. But it's for me, it was just frustrating to see and hear, like she was fighting a battle that she was never going to win, whether she was white or black. But you put the issue is she's black, and she had 120 days to do what Trump had 4 years, 9 years to do. So you look at the uphill and the hole she had to pull herself out of, and the questions she was asked. Well, what are you gonna do about this? Or what are you gonna do? And then she laid it out. And my man, they said, well, what are you gonna do about taxes? Or what are you gonna do about healthcare? Well, we'll see how this pans out. Like you gonna give the
It was a double
keys.
standard, though.
Yeah, you can give this man the keys of the kingdom that has no plan.
Because for some people, it had nothing to do with the plan. It had everything to do with perception. Perception is reality. We talk
Perception
about
is
that all the
reality.
time.
Oh, my gosh.
And so it had nothing
Whether
to
we
do
like
with
it or not,
whether
perception
we
is
like it or not.
reality.
Perception is reality. And so the reality of it is they saw him as strong, even though he may stand on a stage and dance and sing songs for 30 minutes and have absolutely nothing of value
No
to
content.
say.
Bonkers.
No content. And then she gets up there and she will give you platform details, specifics. She will tell you how she want to do it. She will tell you how it's going to impact your pocket and how it's going to impact the country. She'll give you all of that, and still you say, I don't know who she is. It's like you didn't want to know who she is.
And that to me is the part too, where it's like when we're looking at, and we are not, going to pinpoint just those three because we know a lot of localities had low turnout. We can look inward and see, what it felt slow at some precincts in Newport News and Hampton.
Yes, Lord, because I know I was at a couple of precincts and it was a steady stream, but it was a presidential election.
Yep.
Normally with a presidential election, there's a line wrapped around. And so, I mean, there were plenty of times where people were the poll workers just talking to each other. And it's like, okay, where are the people? So I thought that the people had voted during early voting, because in Hampton it was like over 20,000 voting voters who had voted early. But when I looked at the percentage, when I went to the Department of Elections, and I looked at the percentage for different localities, it was like up in the 50s, 54%, 56%, 58%. It was in the 50s.
Right. And so that's where I think, when we were talking about before, like how does the Democratic Party message? To me, it's not about the conversation must be had about let's get the number right, because we want to make sure that they get all the smoke that they deserve. The 2,006,509 Virginians that did vote for that man, the 46.38% that did vote for that man. We got some comments for them coming.
Okay.
But before we get there, the folks that did not show up, and a lot of them did not show up by choice. Right. Not because they didn't know it was an election going on or whatever. I think that it is incumbent upon us to have conversations to see, okay, what happened, right? And if there's this disconnect where they were hoping to see themselves in more of the messaging, how do we learn from that when it's really a race just in the 7 states?
Hey, we're halfway through the show. Big shout out to everyone tuning in. Thank you all so much. If you're loving the content, consider supporting us by becoming a sponsor. Just contact us via email at thecrewradioshow757@gmail.com. Now stick around, we've got even more good stuff coming your way.
Go up by choice.
Right.
Not because they didn't know it was an election going on or whatever. I think that it is incumbent upon us to have conversations to see, okay, what happened, right? And if there's this disconnect where they were hoping to see themselves in more of the messaging, how do we learn from that when it's really a race just in the 7 states? And that's more white lower class in some of the areas that went harder for Trump than
right.
So when we're talking about that, so tell me what you want the Democratic Party to come away with when you see how many people stayed home.
So I want to know, did you like my platform?
Right.
Tell me about my platform. What is it about my platform that you did not like? Because clearly my platform did not speak to your interests or did not speak to your needs or your desires.
Right.
So what about my platform is it that you did not like? Also, what I want to know is, did you feel that you are being included?
Right.
Do you feel like you are included? Do you believe that we think about you when we think about policy? Right. And we think about how it's going to impact you specifically and in your family? Right. Because Kamala talked a lot about raising the middle class. And she talked about how she wanted to give people $25,000 to purchase their first home.
That's game changer.
Yeah, that's a game changer for me. Right. And so when I think about Hopewell and Petersburg and Emporia, I'm thinking those are some poor localities and pretty rural, a couple of them. And so I'm thinking that would be a game changer for me because perception growing up in America is the American dream is to what? Own your own home. Right. And so I'm thinking if she said, I want to invest $25,000 into your first time home buyers.
That you don't got to pay back.
And that you don't have to pay back. And on top of that, if you want to be a business owner, I want to be able to support you.
Right, your startup.
To give you startup money and be able to help you sustain being able to start your own business.
She talked about the family members that are caregivers and making sure Medicaid is coming in. She talked about childcare. She talked
Black Men's Health.
Black Men's Health. The
She
opportunity
created a platform for Black men.
But
it's still
120 days enough. Like if we were to go in, and I think this is what we're gonna have to do as well. Let's say the Democratic Party, because I know that we're not all in Democratic leadership in that. But if we're not gonna go into Petersburg, Emporia, and Hopewell and have these conversations, that's our first mistake. But when we go into the conversations first, 90 days is not a long time to get and infiltrate your message. So do they even know about these policies, or was it more that they saw what Trump was saying about her, right? And they knew, I'll never go for him.
Let's go ahead and put this elephant out. Let's expose this elephant. A lot of people get their news from social media.
Yes.
Social media. I was listening to Morning Joe. For those who don't know who that is, that's Joe Scarborough on MSNBC. Huge show that's been on for decades now, I think it has. So he said, and I thought it was just me, but he said he every day get some of his news from Twitter. But hold on, but he didn't say he gets his news just primarily from Twitter. He just likes to see what's trending. Like, I like to see what's trending.
But you also read.
Yes. I'm going to read the Daily Press. Right. I'm going to read the Virginia Pilot. Right. I'm going to go to a Washington Post or New York Times or something like that. Right. I'm going to go to MSN.com and read regular BBC, news sources, NBC. I'm watching the news channels that's both local as well as national and international. I'm doing all of that because I just want to know what's going on in the world. Right. But I do want to know what's on people's mind.
True.
So I go to Twitter
because you're nosy.
I'm nosy. Yeah, I gotta say I'm messy. I know she messing with me, but I gotta say but I do want to know what people are thinking because perception is reality. Yeah. So I want to know, and I'll tell you in a heartbeat. I say, y'all, Black Twitter is acting up today. They are talking about this and this and this, and it's trending, blah, 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 blah. What are y'all thoughts about it? Matter of fact, we get a lot of our show content because of things that's trending, because we like to talk about the things you guys are talking about. Right. Mm-hmm. So anyway, he said he deleted the app.
Had to. I'm back.
Because Elon Musk.
I will be off by next week.
Yeah.
I'll be off.
The only thing that's keeping me from deleting that app altogether is because I have a lot of photos and posts and stuff like that.
You can download all of that before you delete your account.
Then you show me how to do that, and that by Twitter,
because here's the problem. Here is the problem, and I am trying to check my privilege, and I am trying to remember the economic advantages that I have in life, and I'm not trying to be judgmental, but what is dangerous about just getting your news from that is that Elon Musk curates what you see.
He does.
Elon Musk chooses to give you misinformation and disinformation. He and his folks choose to put certain things in front of certain people to keep them distracted, to keep them from learning facts. And so if you're only getting your news, and I think this about mainstream media as well, because there are a few people that own all these.
But he is more targeted.
He is targeted and deceptive, and just, I mean.
So I'm gonna give you an example. Because you're on the money.
Come on.
You're on the money on this one. You're so on the money. So for like the last 4 weeks, it has been Trump Central. Yep. And probably longer, but I noticed it maybe a month out, about a month or so out. I noticed that there's all these pop-up ads for Trump. Yes. There was always pop-up ads.
In the comments,
yeah.
They look like a comment,
there were no pop-up ads for Kamala. And I'm like, based upon the things that I read,
thank you. Your algorithm
and my algorithm
would have her in it.
It would have had her in it, but it didn't have her in it. And I kept, and look, hold on. You can go on Twitter and you can say not interested in this ad. So I would hit not interested in this ad, and I'll scroll down a little bit more, and it'll pop up again. Yep. So I say he's ignoring the algorithm, or he is messing with the algorithm. He does not care. And the last 2 weeks, it was extremely severe to the point where I stopped even going up there a lot, because I'm like, he's not allowing a regular algorithm to occur. He is purposely, deceptively putting in ads every which way he can for people who wouldn't even be interested in that.
And he himself has tweeted things that were not true.
Correct.
And so here's what, like, everybody was talking about how much of a security and a threat TikTok was. If that is not a security and a threat for the owner of a platform to be actively engaged in misinformation and disinformation, which is illegal,
and paying voters,
which is illegal.
Can we hold on? Since we have the Commonwealth Attorney sitting at the table, I have a question. How can you pay people to vote a certain way and not go to prison? Because I just know if I talk about a bribe.
He didn't say vote for him.
No,
it was a petition for I support the First and Second Amendment.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's still you let somebody like me to say, okay, if you do this, I'm gonna put your name in the sweepstakes, and if you vote for VP Harris, I'm gonna give you $100. Do you know how fast I'd be locked up?
But he didn't say
vote for Trump. So he skirted the line. It is unethical, but he skirted the line without crossing it. So that's why the DOJ was like, all right, bruh.
Like, wasn't if you register as a Republican or something like that?
It was literally from what I thought. It was literally signing the petition that you support the First and Second Amendment or registering to vote. Now, it is illegal to entice anyone with a gift, a bribe, or anything to register to vote. But here's the problem. When you have that much money and you have the man who is about to be president on your side, you can actively break the law.
Because he can pardon you.
Right. So my point in that is, if Twitter is your only news source, if TikTok is your only news source, if Instagram Reels are your only news source, and the people that own those platforms are choosing what shows up in front of you, that's a problem.
That's a problem.
That's a problem. And it is the new technology of what they did when the Nazis took over.
Correct.
When they took over the papers and they did the propaganda. So one of the things that I encourage people to do, and I know we've listed some news sources, but there's the 19th, Atlantic. Like there's so many.
I like the Atlantic.
Oh my gosh.
I like the
Mother
Atlantic.
Jones. There's
Mother
so
Jones.
many independent news organizations that are not owned by billionaires.
I like Politico.
Politico can sometimes.
So here's the thing. In the spirit of my brother, who's not here, Kevin G. Swan. For radio
purposes.
Yes.
I can hear his spirit saying this at the table. Why is it that, I'll give you this example. You look at in the last few weeks of the election, President-elect Trump was on Joe Rogan for like 3.5 hours. He did so many other podcasts, so many different things as far as social media. The quantity was out there, but there was no substance. Right. You look at Vice President Harris, who did probably half that number of interviews and things of that nature on social media, okay. And even like going to The View or going on different talk shows. She didn't do 3 hours. I mean, it's impossible 3 hours on network TV. She did like maybe 5-10. Then you heard the challenges to her, saying that her cognitive ability or her stamina, if you will, is not as much as Trump's, because he was able to do hours. So my question is, with that on the table, why is it that this is what Kevin Swan would say, not what Jason would say, for radio and for YouTube? Why is it that the Dems play so close and they don't want to go where the Republicans will go? So why is that?
I would answer that is a misunderstanding of what actually happened.
To educate us.
Yes. So why would she go on Joe Rogan for 3 hours when that man literally let y'all's former president lie for 3 hours straight? There was no fact checking. And he threw him softballs where he would not have. For her. There was not enough benefit for Joe Rogan specifically. But she went on, what was it? I forgot. Was it Call Me Daddy?
It was Fox. She did Fox too.
She did Fox News. She said she did the one with the women. I don't listen to it, but I think it was like Call Her Daddy or something that had millions of views and all of these things. But look at what she did do. She showed up where the people were, and she had these massive rallies where she was getting her policy across to people who are not listening to podcasts and not watching TV in those ways, right? They're not paying attention to political ads, and but for Meg Thee Stallion being there, probably wouldn't have been at this event either, right?
Correct.
So she's pulling in people, pulling in people who are not going to be the ones that are targeted by ads and everything. But here's where I think I also want people to know where a lot of the money went. The ground game that the Harris-Walz campaign had was grade A. And when I say ground game, I mean people all over the nation, but specifically in the battleground states, literally knocking on doors and having one-on-one conversations, literally making phone calls. So while Vice President Harris was doing all of the things that you saw, and she may not have done things, the money that was spent in true quality conversations, we would have lost so much worse if it had not been for what they did do.
So then what was the disconnect?
I mean, we going there?
We're gonna have to go there.
You got to, because it doesn't, for me, the math ain't mathing. If you got somebody that's saying what they're going to do with a project 2025, that's going to make billionaires richer. I mean, you look at what happened after he was elected, how Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and another, Elijah or somebody, they made like $62 billion. Yeah. Like,
they're getting rich off.
If you see that, and you look at the person like me, a school counselor, worship director, I'm nowhere near 250, making 250. And you subscribe to a man's policies or lack thereof, and like everything he said, he ain't talking to you. So what was the disconnect that allowed him to win besides the hatred? It had to be more than that.
So I think we can't separate any of our answers from the hatred, because your ability to circle in the bubble beside a convicted felon with 34 felonies, a rapist, a rabid anti-black, anti-woman, like just anti-immigrant. Like, you can't separate it because it's not in a vacuum. What I think happened is that when we were talking about before, tapping into that emotional sense, I think Harris was not able to separate herself and give a vision for them that they did not think was tied to President Biden.
Right.
And they are emotionally dejected from their own current economic experience, that their wallet being thinner is equated with her. And the potential, they're able to overlook all this other stuff he did because they're only focused on their wallet. The potential for change was more enticing for them than what they blame, erroneously in my estimation, but what they blame on Biden-Harris. She wasn't able to separate herself from Biden. And I just don't think that the people now, the other reason why I don't think you can separate the hate is because the culture war was the distraction.
It was the distraction.
That's the distraction.
That's crazy to me.
Because you had people voting against their own interests based on their own prejudice.
So you gonna tell me that out of all of the things that you can vote on, being anti-trans kids is what motivated you more for this gentleman than holding corporations accountable for price gouging you, and that's why you are paying more at the grocery store.
So in North Carolina, Trump ran, and I think he ran it in Virginia too, because someone said it was Virginia.
Yep.
He ran a commercial that said that Kamala was going to give sex changes for free to inmates in the Department of Corrections. And so you had black people, because there was a black woman that my brother was telling me about who is a wage earner, just low income. And she was like, I'm not voting for her because I don't agree with that. But you and I were talking about that, and what people don't know is that policy was a law that Trump actually created.
Yes.
But Trump ran a commercial saying Kamala was going to be the one that was going to do it.
But immigration too.
The
truth about immigration and what was happening under President Trump
policy
is what he accused Biden and Harris of doing.
Correct. But here's my question.
Yes.
Why didn't Kamala address that issue head on and say, look, even though I'm going to follow the law, you need to understand this law was created by Donald Trump. And I think her fear was if she did that, she was going to alienate certain voters.
I think it's beyond that. I think it is, and I'm not caping for anybody. Let's be very clear. I will speak up when my party is wrong. Be very clear. Look at some of our other shows. So I'm not caping for anybody, but I do have empathy for what the Democrats had to try to accomplish. Mm-hmm. So in order to expand the vote, because we needed more votes, right?
We did.
Like, my policies that I love and hold dear to and work hard for do not have the numbers to pass at the national level in the battleground states.
Correct.
Okay? So we're very clear. She could not run as a raging leftist.
No, she had
with
to be
all
more
of the
serious.
policies
She would've got
I
smacked.
love.
And we have
she would've got smacked.
offline.
The difference between a primary and a general election.
Correct. So in the primaries, most candidates who win run towards the more extreme ends of they're probably more leftist and more right. Mm-hmm. But when a general election, particularly if it's a national or statewide office, people tend to run back to the middle.
And so, right or wrong, right? We're not saying everything went 100% perfect.
Correct.
But right or wrong, when you are looking at the poll from a Wisconsin, a Pennsylvania, or whatever, when you're saying, okay, what is it that they need to hear? And you have to craft a plan that will speak to the majority of the people in those 7 states, but also satisfy enough people in all these other states that you get the majority you need in the blue states as well. That is something that has to be done with surgical precision.
Right.
And one of my friends was just telling me the other day, like the butterfly effect. Because if you tinker with it over here, then you got to understand it might create a ripple over here.
It's going to.
And Trump had to come out there and basically just not poop himself. That's all he had to do, was not poop himself. And he had his bays.
I think if he pooped himself, I think they'll be like, oh, that's cool. Right. He can be so human. We all have issues and everything.
And that's how you know it's a cult.
Just get him, what do you call them, diapers? Get him
Depends.
Get him a Depends and everything. I mean, probably have a Depends commercial going.
I mean, you look at when okay, let's say this here. Trump did not get shot in Pennsylvania. The bullet hit the thing and the glass because it hit him in his ear. When Trump came with the Band-Aid, the surgical gauze, you had people that ascribe to who he is come out with maxi pads and sanitary wipes on their ear.
And RNC.
Like, can you imagine me walking into my church with a sanitary pad on my ear?
No, because you're not in a cult.
And I'm going to ask for somebody to escort you.
I say that
expeditiously.
Expeditiously.
But I say that because I look at even the decorum she had to, even in the first and only debate, the stuff that he would say, how she would have to smile, and how she had to do, because if she grimaced, she's an angry black woman.
Right.
But you hear him calling women raging bees or nasty, like the vitriol that he used when he called women nasty. Mm-hmm. Had she said any of those things,
right? Like
when he started talking about her, I'm like, what's her husband's name?
Doug and Mo.
I couldn't be Doug.
Oh, no. When they came out with the low IQ and baby girl got more degrees, she has had more experience and more degrees than most of the other men that have ever run and won.
But you stay there for a minute. Like Kamala Harris's resume and her background and put it against Trump.
Yep.
If you switch the names around, he would have it.
Yeah.
But because her face looks the way it does, like those accomplishments go out the window. Yeah. And all he has done is how many bankruptcies?
Let's stop there. Because how many black men or black women you think would have had the opportunity to file that many bankruptcies and still be a billionaire?
We can't even get a job after being charged, much less found guilty 34 times.
Come on.
Okay, so I know we had a common attorney here, and I hope I don't get in trouble. I remember when I was applying for a job with the local sheriff department. I remember it's gonna sound funny. I was walking home from school, and I saw some drug paraphernalia, and I saw it, and I picked it up, and I gave it to somebody. Right when I got I was like maybe 15. Fast forward like 20, I'm like maybe 30, 32 or something like that. I'm applying for this job and they get a polygraph test. And the question comes up, have you ever sold or distributed drugs or paraphernalia? And I immediately start sweating. I said, oh my God, I sold drugs to my friend.
That's not
right?
what they mean.
Right. It's not what it means.
But you knew.
But I knew.
But you knew.
My thing is this, like you said before, a rapist. I mean, you go down a line of who he was and who he is, and he got the job. Yeah. In my mind, I thought I sold drugs at 15, and all I did was just pick it up and gave it to somebody. Right. And the fear, but like he can do anything. Like he said when he ran the first time, I could stand on Fifth Avenue, shoot somebody with a weapon, and broad day like nothing's gonna happen. Yeah. You look at everything he's done.
But when you're a sociopath, you have no sense of right and wrong and remorse.
But it's worse than him being a sociopath. It is the systems that have emboldened him. Sure. Because he was never held accountable for anything. I just knew January 6th was going to be the end of it.
Oh, no.
I did too.
When the Republicans was jumping ship and they were all like, this is unacceptable, blah, 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 because they had to run for their lives, I just knew.
I never had that vibe. I never had that vibe because he has been birthed into privilege and entitlement. And his entire life, his father and those that he placed around them shaped this person to never have to deal with the consequences. He doesn't understand consequences in marriage. Yep. That's why he cheated on every wife. He doesn't understand consequences in business. That's why he will have people build all of these casinos and not pay them by filing bankruptcies. That's so crazy. I don't have any type of payments towards my creditors. I can get off, I can get the profits, and I can keep it going. So he has no consequences. He has no consequences concerning relationships with other people, such as raping people. He can get away with it because he got away with it for years. And he has no consequences when it comes to politics because I could create January 6th, insurrection, and whatever else you want to call it, treason, and I can literally be re-elected president by a supermajority.
And let's be real, respectfully, he demolished Vice President Harris in this one right here versus when Biden. But my thing is this: January 6th, we got about 10 minutes left. You look at January 6th. And anybody that knows me knows I love my wife. I know I love my family. But they couldn't hold me at gunpoint and threaten to kill me. Now, you put it to January 6th, how the rioters came and said, hang Mike Pence and all this stuff. And then the same people that were in there getting threatened is still supporting our soon-to-be president. Yeah. That's crazy work to me.
It ain't crazy. It ain't called crazy. It's called survival. Because they it was more viable for them to do that as a supporter than not to, because if I don't, it is political suicide in the Republican Party, because that is now the new political Republican Party.
And that is true. Liz Cheney did what was right.
Correct.
And lost a job.
There were several others that did what was right. Yeah, the Nevada senator, I can't remember his name. And he did what was right. He got Flake.
There you go.
It was Flake. No, he was from Arizona.
No.
He was Arizona, I think. Flake. Okay. But Senator Flake was sick of Trump. And he ended up not running again. Because if you get sick of him and you call him out, they will turn on you that base. And so it's no longer the Republican Party. I had a friend of mine who literally told me, he was a Republican Commonwealth attorney, and he said that he submitted his letter of resignation to the Republican Party in his city at 4:59 p.m. Tuesday afternoon, because he said he just could not, in good conscience, be a part of that party any longer.
And I commend him for that. But we need more of that, because I think if we're gonna move to looking forward. Yeah, right. Like, what does this mean for our communities? What does this mean for our country? And we know that there's a spiritual reckoning, right? Absolutely.
That's going to be wild.
Also, just bringing it to the logistics of government. Like, the people that will be brought in to have certain jobs, the people who are going to be chairs of committees, the people who are going to get confirmed to some of these, like...
Hold on, he talking about Robert Kennedy III.
Taking fluoride out of water.
Taking fluoride out of water, y'all. No vaccine.
No vaccines. Not even the ones that's been working for 50 years.
This dude is off the chain. Even his family has rebuked him publicly.
Well, I think this is all part of the distraction, right?
Yeah, it is.
Because realistically, there's no way in the world that somebody like RFK Jr., I mean, respectfully, he has a cognitive disability. No. And no disparaging against those who struggle with that. But there's no way in the world I could believe they're going to give him any kind of like real power. It's more of a distraction to say
they would placate him.
Yeah, like put him out there, let him be the show pony, and then they do what they do.
But what do you think it is that they want to do that's different than what he said he wants to do? Because these are the same people that told you to inject bleach into your veins in order to get rid of COVID and to take ivermectin.
That's crazy.
And had people buying up all of the medicine that other people needed in order for.
And they were dying. These fools were dying. They were doing these things, and they were dying.
I don't know.
I'm sorry, you're correct. It is RFK Jr.
I might get in trouble for this, and that's cool too, because I'm playing the other side of the radio. I'm Swan. I'm not Jason Covington. If you think about like how people are so fearful, because really fear of Trump, could you argue it's almost a modern day slavery mentality? Because if you think about how our ancestors, we were a lot on those plantations. I mean, I wasn't there, but let's just give a number, 500 slaves to 2 slave owners. Mm-hmm. But the fear that those 2 white men had with the rifles against those 5, now, a couple of them may have died in that, but they could have overtaken them. Mm-hmm. You think about there's so many other Republicans that could have been a candidate besides Trump. Mm-hmm. And why is there so much fear against that joker?
But I think that there is an element of fear. But then once you get beyond the fear, the reason why they still ended up doing what they did was because they are power hungry. Like, this is greed more so than fear. Now, they were afraid of him getting in the way of their bag and their power.
That's correct.
But they are focused on their bag and their power. When you have, these folks...
Bezos.
Like, openly saying, what the plan is, the same people that made record-breaking profits while your grocery bill went up, who are targeting you with dynamic pricing in their stores and increasing inflation and corporate greed are different.
They are.
But the average person is not thinking that through. And they say the economy for how much money I have in my pocket.
They don't realize that when they have these record-breaking profits, the basis of it is they raise the prices that hit your pocket, and they took the profit from it.
The fact that man lied about just the simple mechanics of how tariffs work and had them believing it. This is not the same, because while there may have been fear that kept enslaved people enslaved, this is a cult. This is a cult.
We're running out of time. However, I just got it, because I know there's a lot of church folks that listen to this, and so I just need y'all to understand.
You about to start prophesying?
No, we can go. Say words.
Let me go and cut the organ real quick.
I just need y'all to understand now. When God dropped it in my spirit about him winning, he dropped it in my spirit because he said people are going to think that he won because he's the ordained prophet for the time, and God called him. No. God's going to use him because God's going to judge America, and he's going to start with the church first, because he said, I will not have any idols beside me. And he said, I'm going to judge the church. And so for those churchy people that thought, oh yeah, that's God's elect man and that's God's select man, that's God's select man to judge America, because he said, you want a king? people of Israel, I'm going to give you a king. He said they're going to take your children and send them to war. It's going to take your land, and you're going to suffer as a result of that, and they're going to rule over you.
Let me get my lamb's blood to put over my door.
I'm just saying,
because
because
for real,
the church need to understand. They need to understand. We need to repent, and we need to be fast in repenting. And for those who feel like, no, we got it right with Trump, I pray God's mercy upon you, because God is not going to be playing with us. And I'm talking about all of us, the whole church.
Y'all pray for me, because I'm not there to pray for mercy. I want some of these folks to get exactly what they voted for.
I get it.
I want some of these folks to learn, because here's what I know. It didn't hurt enough the first time he was there. It didn't hurt enough. And you are going to have to, not all. Right?
It's going to hurt this time.
It's going to hurt. And when you thinking that the eggs are expensive now, 19 economists
y'all know I
told you.
Y'all know I bake. The darn going heavy whipping cream, y'all, for half a gallon was $10.
Listen, when the economist told you that it was going to be more expensive, when that fool told you that if you make less than $360,000, your taxes are going to go up, you voted for that man because of inflation that was actually corporate greed, and the folks that made all the money are his friends. Hello?
But even go a step further, in this last 60 seconds, you going to get rid of, or you going to vote for a man that say he want to get rid of the Affordable Care Act that you're on.
That you're on.
Like that
with
make
your,
that
you're on.
Make sense.
Pre-existing
You got
condition.
cancer and you got diabetes, and you say I want the man that's going to take what the little bit I do have.
That's how you know.
This is crazy talk. This is crazy
wrapped
work.
up into the culture war, and their hate for black folks, for women, for LGBTQIA overtook their own good common sense in order to self-protect. And that's why, along with, the spiritual folks, there are going to be some atheists that, might tune in 10. This is going to be Darwinism as well, because you can't just be that dumb to work against your own self because of hate and just, you just going to make it. Some of these folks are going to learn exactly what this man was telling them, and how you have chosen hate and evil over your own self-interest, and good luck. And do not call black women to come save you.
And you know what? And that's what they're saying too. Don't call me. Don't call me.
Well, I'm going to do my job.
I know you're going to do your job. Don't call me. But anyway, we are out of time. We are out of time.
So we got to do that part 2.
We got to do a part 2. But please go on to our YouTube channel. And it's The Crew Radio Show.
Yes.
If you Google The Crew Radio Show on YouTube, you can find us. Also, tell everybody we are on at 6 p.m. on Fridays on WHOV or on iHeartRadio. So please make sure you tune in, because people are still seeing me in the street saying, hey, where are y'all? And I'm like, we're on Fridays at 6 p.m. So please tell everybody Friday, but go to YouTube, because you can see us.
Subscribe.
You can see us. Like and subscribe. If y'all want to see more of this content, like and subscribe.
And I tell you this too, and I could tell you because I'm the producer. If you go to our podcast, every now and again the producer feels very generous, and he drops it 24 hours before.
Ooh.
Now listen. Now I don't know if you like me. When I watch a movie, I gotta watch 2-3 times. You listen to the podcast and you hear it, and you see the show notes, and then you slide at 6 o'clock that Friday evening, and you be able to see it, and now you can hear and see what. God is better to you than what you want him to be.
You know what?
God is better than good.
Before you get off this list, but y'all also don't forget to drop in the comments. So we are going to have a part 2. Yeah. What is it y'all want us to talk about? What is it that we're going to do for next steps? Because survival is the name of the game.
Yes.
Drop that in the comments so that we can make sure that we are giving you what you want and what you need.
Absolutely.
And Swan says, until next time, be a blessing to someone that can be a blessing to themselves. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of The Crew Radio Show. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. We're always looking for great sponsors to support the show. If your company would like to reach our highly engaged audience, please drop us a line at thecrewradioshow757@gmail.com. Until next time, thank you for kicking it with the crew.